Hi guys, today's video is all about growing houseplants in water in a hydroponic fashion. I get a lot of questions on this about whether you can grow plants in water, and the answer is yes, you can. The confusing thing, I think, when you first get into spider plants, into houseplants, you read a lot about how overwatering is so much worse for plants than underwatering, and it's true. It is. You can quite easily, in like days, overwater a plant and kill it. But then that's quite confusing because you can keep a plant in 100% water. And I didn't really know why. I didn't really care why. I just knew that it was true. But then people kept asking me on my website, so I looked it up, and it makes sense. When you propagate a plant in water, the roots it grows are quite thick and white, and they're often hairy, and they're water roots, and they are designed to, what's the right word? Absorb oxygen, nutrients from water, but they are different to soil roots. And that's why when you transfer a plant from water, from propagating it and put it into soil, you have to keep the soil damper than you normally would, because at that point the plant can't effectively absorb nutrients and oxygen from the soil. But over time it will develop soil roots, which is why you have to wait until you've got a decent amount of root, because the root won't be as effective in soil as it was in water, so you have to keep it damp. But if you wanted to keep it in water its whole life, you could absolutely do that. When you Google it, I've seen quite a lot of results saying you can't grow plants as big, that they don't develop as well. And that it's not because it's in water, it's not because of the water roots. I think it's more because of the maintenance and the physical limitations you have when you grow a plant in water. But these can be overcome. There's loads of people who grow plants just in water. So if you want to grow a plant in water and you're not sure which one to pick, you can grow, as far as I'm aware, there aren't any plants that you can't grow in water. There are some that you need to be more careful with. So if you're growing succulents, the leaves can't get wet. You can only have the roots in the water. But is the cracking method of... That's normally for like growing vegetables and stuff, but basically you have water at the bottom, then a gap, like air, and then the plant on top. So the bottom of the plant isn't anywhere near the water. It's not always that easy to sort of work that out. Like you need to find a way to sort of suspend it, unless you want to like buy cracky jars and stuff, and they don't look incredible because they're utilitarian as opposed to pretty. But maybe soon. I would advise starting with a plant that roots quickly or is fairly hard to kill. Syngoniums do really well, and they're quite small and cheap. Monstera also do really well. They're cheap in the UK, but I know in the US some places are charging extortionate amounts for them. But you can always start with a plant that you don't like or is dying, because it's sort of a kill or cure. So if you have got plants that aren't doing so well, they're always good for that sort of project. Pothos, heartleaf philodendrons, they're all really good plants to start with if you just want to practice. The easiest way is to just take a propagation and root it that way and just leave it and keep upgrading the pot as you go along. When you grow a pot in water, you don't have the issues of pot size like you do with soil, so you could get one big receptacle and put many plants in it, so it can be quite space saving that way. But if you have an existing plant that you want to switch into water, it's not difficult to do. But there is sort of a pass or fail aspect to it, and it can be a bit of a ball ache, I suppose. If you're like me and I'm not a particularly careful, diligent person, I'm more sort of slapdash. So all you have to do is get the soil off the roots. That's the job that we're doing. But every bit of soil on the roots will hinder the plant's ability to grow water roots, and it can also potentially carry bacteria which will cause root rot. So the better you are at getting the soil off the roots, the more chance there is that your changeover will be a success. Syngoniums I've found to be quite good, mainly because they have a lot of roots. So roots are quite delicate, so you can break them, especially if you're not a careful, diligent person. I've seen people like going at them with toothbrushes and stuff. That I tried, but I'm too rough, and I just ended up breaking them. So now it's very much a case of blast them with a hose. Or so what I tend to do is, in the UK we have things called washing up bowls, which I don't believe that they have in the US, which is amazing to me, but there you go. It's a bowl that fits in your sink that you do the washing up in, and I rinse the plant's roots with very gentle water under the tap into the washing up bowl until the washing up bowl is full, and then the reason for this will become clear later, and then I just soak the roots in it and sort of with my hands to try and gently ease the soil off. I try and use lukewarm water. I suppose it's better for the plants, but the real reason is if I'm using freezing cold water, I will give up way before time because my hands are cold, and you really have to set yourself up to succeed. This sounds really like it's not a difficult task, but it's one I find very thankless and terrible at, and I'm very much from the school of, oh, that'll be fine. And to be fair, it always has been so far. Like, the roots from my plants aren't squeaky clean. You see people on Facebook groups and they're like, is this clean enough? And it's spotless. And oh God, I mean, the little monstera I've got in the aquarium has a really tight root ball that's still full of dirt, and it's been in water probably 6 months, so it's fine. So yeah, there's sort of a balance between, you want as much dirt off as possible without damaging the roots. If you get bored halfway through, you're already halfway there. I mean, it'll probably be fine. You just have to be a bit more diligent with changing the water, which is again something I struggle with. But when it's a new propagation or a new plant that I put in water, I am better. And as I get lazier and lazier, the roots get cleaner and cleaner. So it works out fine. In terms of the benefits of keeping plants in water, I don't think it's as clear cut as saying it's better to keep plants in water or it's better to keep plants in soil. It really depends on what you're sort of looking to get out of the hobby. In my case, it's a business. Every plant that dies or fails, I will have learned something from, which I can then put on my website. So it's easier for me to say, oh, let's try it, because I'm not losing out. I know the plants died, and that sounds really callous, but to be honest, I've not lost that many. I don't think I've lost any from putting them in LECA. But I wouldn't say it's easier or it's harder. The only thing I have found, and I mention this all the time, is that if I grow plants in the aquarium, it's so much easier. But that's because my boyfriend maintains it. If I had a whole aquarium to maintain, it wouldn't be easier. That's just my circumstances. So anyway, there are benefits to keeping plants in water, and the first one I think is that it's less messy. There's not soil everywhere. There is water everywhere, but you can wipe that up. LECA, it's not messy. It is annoying, and I imagine if you had like dogs or cats that will chase after it, I imagine that gets really annoying. But you don't have soil traipsed all over the house, and when you water them, you don't have like grey puddles everywhere. It's also, I think it's cheaper keeping plants in water. I think. But I suppose it really depends on, I make my own potting mix, which is kind of cheaper, but we're really talking about economies of scale. If you've only got a couple of plants, it's definitely not cheaper. I have a lot of plants, so I can get I got 100 litres of perlite for $19.99, whereas you can get like 6 litres for £15. Do you know what I mean? Like it's only cheaper if you've got the initial money to spend. If you don't, no. But the thing about LECA and water obviously comes from the tap. I don't use distilled water and I don't use a water filter. I do collect rainwater, which again is free, but I've got a garden to put buckets in, so it depends on your circumstances. I also use the old aquarium water. Again, not worth setting up an aquarium, but it is not only less wasteful, but it's already dechlorinated and it's got fish poop in it for a little bit of fertiliser, and it's it's actually warmer than room temperature, so that's good. But LECA is cheaper. Whether it's cheaper initially or not, I really don't know. I think it maybe is. It's reusable. And whilst it does go everywhere on the floor, you can pick it up. You can't, if you drop a load of soil on the floor, there's only so much you can sweep up, and then you're like, well, has it got bugs in it? Has it got like dust and crap in it? So, but LECA, you can pick it up, wash it, and reuse it. So, yeah, you can keep reusing it indefinitely. If a plant dies and you just get the LECA back, you boil it to get all the bugs out and stuff, and then you're ready to go again, and it's good as new. I'm sure it degrades over time, but I don't know. I've not had that happen, so I'm assuming you get a good few years use out of it. There are rumours, and these are rumours, it's not true, that you don't get pests in LECA. You don't get fungus gnats, but that would rely on all your plants being in LECA. You only need one plant to be in soil, and then you've got fungus gnats. So fungus gnats lay their eggs in soil. So if there's no soil, there's no eggs, and they can only complete part of their life cycle, so you wouldn't get more of them. But like I say, you need them all to be in LECA. What I would say about pests is it's easy to get rid of them because you can rinse them much easier, and you can rinse them every day without worrying that you're going to end up with waterlogged soil. I've tried pretty much every method of getting rid of pests ever, and they all fall down because I'm not diligent enough about making up the spray or whatever and then keeping on top of it. I can generally remember to rinse a plant off. If I've got a plant that's really bad, I'll just move it into my bathroom, and then when I'm in the shower I can just rinse it off there. In LECA it's so much easier because you can just soak everything, and it'll be fine, whereas when you've got soil you've got to like angle it. I mean, you can do it, but you sort of angle it and then you might get soil in the bath, and it's a whole thing. The rumours that you don't get spider mites and thrips are not true. Thrips really don't care at all. They love climbing around in the LECA. Spider mites might be put off because it's a bit more humid, but you will still get them. You won't get rid of them. One thing that's good about LECA, if you've got a plant that you suspect is dying or has root rot, is that you can see the roots and you can check them. Whilst it's not advisable to get the roots out all the time because it is disturbing to the plant, you can see them. I don't know if it's just coincidence or what, but I've found that roots do tend to grow towards the light. So if you keep your plant in something that's glass or just clear, you will see the roots. So, I mean, not only is it exciting for some people like me, you can see how they're doing and you can see any issues. It's easy to diagnose issues. You can sort of either rule out or rule in root rot much quicker than having to get it out of soil. There is one thing that you can do with LECA that you can't do with plants in soil, and that is water them on a schedule. Because with LECA, it really depends. Some people always keep a water reservoir in the bottom of the LECA, and some people use the shower method, which is literally just watering the plant like you would with soil until it comes out of the bottom, until the water comes out of the bottom, and then you just put it back in a pot without any water in it. Either way, but you can say, right, I'm going to do that every week, or I'm going to do it 2 weeks, whatever. It's not always great, especially if you're using the shower method. You are better off seeing if the plant needs watering, but you will run into fewer problems than if you did that with plants in soil in terms of root rot and things. And I have mixed feelings on this. I love the idea that like once a week I can go around and check all my plants and top up their water and clean their leaves, but that when you've got hundreds of plants, that's like quite a big undertaking. My method now is just every day I sort of have a quick look around, see if anybody looks thirsty, and then I just go and shove them into bottom water in a pot that I've got downstairs, like a tray. And that works fine for the plants that look thirsty. For the plants that don't look thirsty and just hang on and then drop down dead, that doesn't really work so well. But it's working all right for me. So this summer I'm planning to put a lot more plants in LECA and water, and I do want to get on a better schedule because I think it would help with pest control, which I'm terrible at. There are issues with keeping plants in just water. They're not bad, there's pros and cons for everything, but there are things that you need to think about. So the main thing for me is that they do need more maintenance. LECA not so bad, but plants kept in water grows really quickly. If you don't change the water regularly, your plant probably won't die, it will be fine, but it won't grow big leaves, it won't grow quickly, it might not grow at all. They do rely on more oxygen and nutrients in the water, so that is one issue. Then the other issue, which is I don't know if it's just me am I just stupid? I don't know how people do this, but propping up plants in water is really difficult. So this is my monstera. Oh my god, it's so heavy. And it's got a moss ball, and it's in soil. And it's not even that big. But if I put that in water, I can't put a moss pole in because unless I glue it to the bottom, which I suppose I could do, but it just seems so sort of permanent. You know, you could grow plants up walls and things, but that seems too... Also, it's too permanent. I like being able to move plants around because I do move my plants around. This is quite a dark house. There isn't enough light for everybody, so if a plant is growing a new leaf, I quickly give it more light, and then I know that leaf will be bigger, and then once that leaf is out, then it can go back into the dark and it's somebody else's turn. And that works fine. But if I had like plants in water with like maybe a plank nailed to the back or something, I'd have like moving, it would just be so much more difficult to move everything. I don't know if I'm just missing something. But that's how I feel about that. If anybody has a good way of keeping plants propped up when they're in water, please let me know, because I really have no idea what to do. It's bad enough trying to keep them to the top of the aquarium. I am going to talk a little bit about the aquarium, just because it is such a good way of keeping plants in water. But this is only for you that have aquariums. I know I've said this, but please don't start an aquarium just for plants. In order for it to have the full benefits, you'd need to get fish, and taking care of fish it's a big undertaking. Having said that, if you wanted to fertilise the fish tank, there is no reason you would need to put fish in it. It would just, one of the main things I like about it is there's built-in fertiliser. But if you just wanted to get a tank, or even like a goldfish bowl, you'd just need an air stone, maybe a filter. You wouldn't even need a filter if you maintained it well, but if you got a filter, it would mean you wouldn't need to change the water so often. A heater, a light, and then you could put your plants in there and they'll grow beautifully. It'd be really good. It'd be a really good propagation station. I see a lot of people with betta, and I love betta. They are lovely, lovely fish. We had one for years, and I do love them, but I would not trust a betta as far as I could throw him not to eat the roots of plants. Not because that's what they eat, because they don't, they're carnivorous. But like goldfish and many fish, they will eat anything. The fish we've got now, they're not plant eaters. A lot of them are like lower down, so we've got Corydoras catfish. They stay on the bottom, they're not really that bothered. They do like to swim in the roots, but they don't eat them. And then we've got some, I don't know, it's not my tank. We've got some gobies and stuff. But it's quite, and some rainbow fish, but they're not root eating. If you have a goldfish tank, they will decimate roots. I've not found anything that goldfish won't eat, just because of the type of fish they are. They're just greedy. So yeah, don't do it. But again, there is a lot of maintenance in a fish tank. They obviously have a light source. They're really heavy, so if you have an apartment, maybe not the best thing. You don't want it going through the floor. And keeping plants upright is hard. I do want to come up with a product to make this easier, some sort of grid system, but the problem is, so we could put a grid in it and stick the roots in there, but the fish get stuck in it. So we're not going to do that, it's just not worth the risk. So, because as much as I love my plants, I would sacrifice them much easier than the fish. The fish are the most important thing, and it's not my aquarium, it's my boyfriend's. So yeah, whilst it's brilliant for root growth and they grow so well in there, it's not without its issues, like keeping them from falling in and floating to the bottom is a constant battle. So once I come up with a system, I will let you know, but I think I'm already taking up too much of it. We'll see what my boyfriend comes up with. He is sort of trying to come up with a way of floating like a shelf on top so we can sit the plants on it, but then the roots will be in the water, and then there will be a gap between the surface of the water and the shelf, so we wouldn't risk the fish unless he decides to jump out, but that's really on them. Oh yeah, that's another thing. So obviously we don't have a lid on top of the aquarium. Most aquariums have lids on them because that's where the light unit is, especially if you're a beginner and it's your first aquarium. That's just that you buy it as a complete unit. Ours is a handmade job, and it's just got a sheet of glass on the top, and we do have fish that are prone to jumping out called hatchet fish, but to combat that you just keep the water level lower. So yeah, in conclusion, you can 100% keep plants in water. I have a lot of my plants in water. The reason I use LECA rather than water is it gives a little bit of stability, not as much as soil. But once they're established, so I have peace lilies, long, tall, large peace lilies in LECA. When I first put them in, I had to lean them against the wall to prop them up because they just kept falling over. But as their roots develop, they attach to the LECA and then it becomes a lot more stable. So yeah, I think we've covered everything. If there's anything else that you want to know about or are interested in, please just leave me a comment, and I will see you next week. Bye.